Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we're going to be doing a rose quartz nail design using the Easy Build Up builder gels. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. For today's video I'm going to be working on some press on nail tips and I'm going to come in to begin with and use the rubber base coat. I love the rubber base coat. It is my preferred base coat, especially when working with builder gel. Now, if you were doing this set on yourself, you would do all of your prep before coming in and applying your base coat. So I will leave a prep video linked in the description box below. But because I'm working on display tips, I'm just going to come straight in with the base coat. So I'm applying a really thin layer of this to all of the nails. And when I apply the rubber base, I really like to scrub it in to the nail plate. So I'm just working that into the nails before popping them in to cure. The rubber base coat is slightly thicker than your regular base coat, but I find that if you really work it into that nail plate and the fact that it self-levels, you can still achieve a thin coat of this. So that's why you do see me working it in and going over it a few times, just because I don't want there to be a too thick layer. Once I have finished applying this to all 5 of the nails, I'll pop this in to cure in my Kiki London LED lamp for 30 seconds. As I said, today's video we're going to be doing a rose quartz nail design. So the main colour that I'm going to be using is the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel in Sweet Rose. This is a really pretty pink colour, and if you work with it in thin layers it can be quite sheer, and if you work with it in thicker layers it can be quite full coverage. So it's a really versatile product. Now I'm going to be doing 2 different styles of rose quartz. So the middle 3 nails I'm going to be doing one way, and then the thumb and the little finger I'm going to be doing slightly different. So we're going to work on the pointer, middle and ring finger to begin with. And to start off with, I'm going to apply a really thin layer of this. So I'm applying this very similar to how I applied the rubber base coat. I'm really working it into the nail, just making sure that I get a thin, even coat down. Again, the builder gel self-levels absolutely beautifully. So I like to just work it in, but I don't worry too much if it isn't completely even, because by the time I'm finished the next nail, it has leveled out nicely. I'm keeping this layer quite thin because with the particular rose quartz design that I'm doing, I'm going to be adding lots of different layers, or not lots of different layers, but a few different layers. So I want to make sure that I keep each layer thin unless I need it to be slightly thicker, and then that way I'm not going to end up with a too bulky nail. So once I'd finished applying that first thin coat, I popped that in to cure for 60 seconds. And then I'm going to take some of the Kiki London French White and I'm just going to pop some of this down onto my nail art palette. We're going to be using the French White to create the white marble effect that's in the rose quartz design. So I popped down a generous amount because I'm going to be using that on all 5 nails. And I'm also going to be using my 2 nail art brushes. So I'm using the striped liner brush and the angled brush in today's video. Both of these brushes are from the new Pro Range nail art brushes that Kiki London recently launched. I have to say I reach for this striped liner brush nearly every time I do nails now. It's absolutely amazing. And all I'm doing to begin with is loading up that liner brush with my French White and pulling it through the tacky layer that the builder gel has left behind. So I want to create that rose quartz marble effect, and I want to do it in layers so that you see different layers of the white marble, if that makes sense. It will all come together as we go throughout the video. But to begin with, I'm putting down slightly thicker lines, and I'm putting them down in that tacky layer that the builder gel has left behind, because I want the white gel polish to disperse a little bit so it doesn't look sharp or crisp. I want it to look quite watered down. And then I'm taking my angled brush and I've got a tiny amount of alcohol in the little palette there, and I'm just blending that out a little bit more. And I don't want to blend it out too much, but I want it to kind of just look as though it's washed out a little bit more into that builder gel. I don't do this every time that I apply the white gel polish. I just do it if I feel as though it needs neatening up, or if I want to blend it out a little bit more. But I do want these first white lines that I've applied to look quite soft. So once they had cured, I'm then going to tap on some mylar flakes. So again, I'm using my angled brush to pick these up and pop them down onto that still tacky builder gel. The builder gel has quite a tacky layer, so I find this really good for encapsulating nail art because I don't have to come in with any additional products if I don't want to get my nail art to stick. It's going to stick enough in that builder gel just to hold it in place until I encapsulate. So I'm just simply popping down some of these. I love mylar flakes in marble and rose quartz designs because they reflect absolutely beautiful in different angles of the light, especially when you're wearing them on your own nails rather than on display tips like this. You would just find that they catch the light beautifully and reflect lots of different colours. Now, because we're going for that rose quartz effect, rather than encapsulating these in clear, I'm going to encapsulate them in the sweet rose. This will just soften them and add an extra layer of depth to the overall design. So I'm coming in with a thin layer of the rose quartz and I'm just working it around those mylar pieces to cover the entire nail. Now, the mylar pieces are not cured in place, but that previous tacky layer of builder gel is holding them in place. It doesn't matter too much if they move around when you come in with this layer of gel. So I'm just working that around them. I'm using really gentle motions just to make sure that that gel gets completely over them. And because these mylar flakes are quite thick and rigid, I'm just making sure that that gel really works around them to fully cover those. So I'm just going to do this on all 3 of the nails. And then I'll also pop this in to cure for 60 seconds. As you can see here, that little piece of mylar moved, so I'm able to just push it back into place with my brush. I'm then going to pop that layer of builder gel in to cure for 60 seconds. And then this is what the nails looked like once that had cured. So you can see you've already got that really soft white marble effect and then the mylar flakes over the top. And I'm now going to come in and apply my next layer of the marble. So I'm working exactly the same as before. I'm working over the tacky layer that the builder gel has left behind, and I'm simply drawing on some wriggly lines. You don't want these lines to look too straight or too perfect, because if you looked at a rose quartz marble, the lines wouldn't be perfect in it. So play around with it, but just don't worry about them being too neat. And you don't want to add too many lines because we don't want it to look over the top. We want the overall design to look quite soft and subtle. When you're applying your second layer of white lines, you kind of also want to bear in mind where the lines are underneath. So you don't want to go directly over those previous lines. The previous lines are going to look slightly softer because they've got that extra layer of pink over them, but you still want to be able to see them. So that's why I'm placing my next layer of lines in just a slightly different place. And then you can see the rose quartz design is slowly coming together. I just felt as though this line here looked a little bit thick, so I'm going to use my angled brush to clean that up a little bit. And then I'm going to pop these in to cure for 30 seconds. I just also wanted to let you guys know that I leave all of the products I use, including any tools or equipment like the lamp, linked in the description box below. So if you are looking for anything that I use, then do check out the description box. I will also leave a link to the Kiki London Instagram page and the Facebook group as well. So if you're looking for any advice or support, I definitely would recommend following them on Instagram and heading on over and joining the group. Jumping back to the nails, I'm then going to come in and encapsulate these 3 nails. Now we have already built up a fair bit of the strength and structure with the 2 layers of gel we've already done, but I just want to come in and add an encapsulation layer just to make sure all of that mylar and gel design is encapsulated in, but also because if you were sculpting a set of nails of this length on yourself with the builder gel, you want to make sure that you're building up your apex and that the nail is thick enough to last. And again, I'm going to encapsulate with the sweet rose because of the fact we're going for that rose quartz design, but you could also encapsulate in the clear at this step as well if you wanted to. It depends on the effect you want to get. But to encapsulate, I'm coming in and applying that thin slip layer to begin with. Your slip layer is a wet layer of gel that you apply, but you keep it quite thin and it just helps guide your thicker layer of gel down the nail. And then I'm coming in with my thicker layer of gel, just working this from side to side, keeping the bulk of the product in that apex area and just basically pulling it down gently to cover the entire nail. Now, as I said, the gel self levels absolutely beautifully, so I'm having to do minimal work with my brush. I'm literally just guiding it to where I want it to be. And as I showed you on the previous nail, you can see how easily it built up the apex and how smooth it looked. So again, I'm going to do exactly the same, applying that thin slip layer of gel. This layer you keep wet. And then I'm picking up my thicker ball of gel, wriggling it from my brush so it releases onto that slip layer, and then I'm just guiding it from side to side. Now the video is sped up a little bit, so it looks as though I'm working a bit faster than what I actually am. You don't want to work your builder gel too fast because you can put air bubbles into it, so I'm actually being quite gentle and just letting it flow, and I'm using my brush to just guide it where I want it to go. And then this is what those nails looked like once I'd applied that layer. So you can see they're not too thick, but we've built up that apex. You can then hold them upside down before popping them into cure if you want to pull that product into the center a little bit more. Now that we've cured these nails, I'm not 100% finished with them. I'm going to come in further along in the video and do a little bit of on top nail art on them. But for now, I'm just going to wipe off that tacky layer because I will give these a file once I finish the other two nails, just to smooth them out a little bit more and make sure that there's no lumps or bumps that I might have created with the gel. But for now, I'm going to put those three nails aside and we're going to work on the thumb and the little finger. So again, this is a rose quartz design, but it's going to be slightly different, mainly because if I ever do a set of nails on myself, I very rarely have all 5 nails the same. I usually tend to do my pointer, middle and ring finger the same, and then my thumb and the little finger the same. But I kind of also, for the video, wanted to show you a different way of doing rose quartz because there's so many different ways out there and they all look really pretty, so I thought it'd be fun to show you another way as well. So on this particular nail, I'm coming in, remember we've already applied our base coat at the start, so I've come in and applied my slip layer, and then I want the base of this nail to be slightly more pink, so that's why I'm coming in over the top of that slip layer with my thicker layer. I'm not building up all of my strength and structure here though. I'm not really building up an apex, it's just a slightly thicker layer of the pink so that it looks a little bit more opaque. And I'm just going to pop that aside. I'm not curing it yet. I'm going to work on the next nail. So again, applying that slip layer, I'm working this like I worked the base coat, a really thin layer of gel, working it into that base coat so that it's nice and smooth. And then I'm picking up my thicker ball of gel, and then I'm just going to wriggle that up in that apex area. I'm taking that gel slightly back to the cuticle area, but you don't want too much product in your cuticle area because you want the cuticle area of your gel to blend into the natural nail a little bit. You don't want there to be this thick ridge. So I like to work quite thin with my products up in the cuticle area, and then I'm just walking that layer of gel down towards the free edge. As I said, I don't want this layer to be too thick. I just want you to be able to see a little bit more of the pink colour. I'm just taking that from side to side until I get all the way down to the free edge. I had applied the gel a little bit uneven here, as you can see, so I just hold that upside down for a few seconds just to help smooth it out before I then pop them both of those nails in to cure for 60 seconds. And then to begin with on this nail, we're doing the same as what we did on the previous nail. So we're coming in with the French white and drawing on some thin lines. I'm trying to keep these ones a little bit thinner because I want the look to be slightly different to the previous two nails. So I've just applied a small amount of the gel polish to my striped liner brush, and I'm just pulling it through that tacky layer of gel. As you can see, it disperses out a little bit. I don't want it to run too much, so that's why I'm working quite quickly so that I can get these in to cure. I'm then going to pop those in to cure for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to come in with some gold leaf. So I had already broken up some gold leaf on my nail art palette into some smaller pieces, and then using the angled brush, I'm just tapping this on to the tacky layer from the builder gel. What I like about the gold leaf is it's so versatile. You can apply smaller chunks, larger chunks, but for this particular design, I just want some smaller pieces. So I'm placing down a piece of the gold leaf and kind of just using my angled brush to break it up a little and disperse it around the nail. The angled brush is great for this because it's that little bit stiffer than the round brush, so you're able to pull the gold leaf apart and get it to where you want it to be. I don't want there to be too much of it, but I want it to be scattered over the entire nail. And I'm really pressing that down into the tacky layer to make sure it kind of encapsulates in and smooths out, so it's a nice flat piece of gold leaf, because gold leaf, it can crumple up and ends up a little bit chunky. So I'm making sure to use my brush to get that as nice and flat before I then come in and apply my next layer of the builder gel. So to begin with the builder gel, I'm just applying a thin layer of this over the entire nail, just working it around the gold leaf, very similar to what we did with the mylar flakes. So I'm just making sure it really encases around it, so we've got a nice smooth surface to the nail. And then I'm coming in with my thicker layer of gel and just working this down the nail. So very similar to the slip layer and the encapsulation layer, I'm just encapsulating this in so it builds up the rest of the nail. Just being really careful that none of those gold leaf pieces are coming over the free edge or the sidewalls, because if they do, they will just get filed away and you won't see them. So it's kind of better to make sure that they're on the surface of the nail. As you see, once again, I just applied that thin slip layer, and then I'm coming in with my thicker layer and working it down the nail. Now, when you're doing your thicker encapsulation layer on a design like this, take into consideration the length of the nail. So if you're working on a short natural length nail, you wouldn't need an apex as such. You wouldn't need there to be too much thickness. But if you're working on a nail this length, so I'm working on these nails as though they are the natural nail with a sculpted free edge or a tip as an extension. So that's why I'm adding in my apex and making sure that there's enough thickness there, so that if these were being worn on a client or yourself, they would be able to withstand everyday use. So I'm then going to take one of the Kiki London alcohol pads and really scrub off that tacky inhibition layer, and then we're ready to move on to our next step. So I'm going to bring all of the nails back together. Now they all do look fairly similar at this point. It is more just the gold leaf and the mylar flakes that makes the difference. So once again, I'm just going to give this a quick clean, and then we're going to come in and file. So just because we've added that thicker encapsulation layer, I want to make sure that the overall surface of the nail is nice and smooth. And if I was wearing this on myself, or if I was doing this design on myself, I'd want to make sure that that cuticle area is blended in, that my sidewalls aren't too thick and bulky. So to do this, I come in with my nail file. Now, builder gel files really easily, so I'm only using the 180 grit side of the file. And what I like to do is just come around the sidewall, around the cuticle area, and up the other sidewall, and then I just go over the surface of the nail and check from all angles just to make sure it's all nice and smooth and that there's no lumps or bumps. And I'm also just making sure that I'm happy with the shape of the nail as well, because obviously when you've added your layers of builder gel, you might have lost your crisp shape. So just come in with my file to get that nice shape back. And then because we have filed, you will have some deeper scratches on the surface of the nail. So I like to come in with my buffer and just give the nails a buff. Now I did that to all 5 nails, and I also made sure to give them a good scrub to remove all of the dust. And now I'm going to come in and add some of the on top nail art. So I'm coming in on, first of all, on the nail that we've added the gold leaf to, so the last 2 nails that we worked on. And I'm just coming in with the Kiki London French white and adding another layer of the marble design. Now this layer of the marble design is going to be on the surface of the nail, so this isn't going to be encapsulated in the pink builder gel, so it's going to look a lot more crisp compared to the marble layers we've done underneath. So I'm making sure to paint on those lines as neat as I can, and I also want them to be quite thin because we don't want them to be too overpowering. And this is what I love about these layered nail art designs. I lost my train of thought there. You can really create depth and dimension to the nail design by working in layers, and I just think the overall design is really pretty. But although you're working in lots of different layers, it's still quite effortless to create, and you can play around with different colors. These look really pretty in a light green as well, and you can create that, I think it's called jade marble design, and that's really pretty as well, and it's using all the same principles as what we've done here. So once I've finished adding on those final white lines, I'm going to pop those in to cure for 30 seconds. And that's the design work on those two nails finished. All we're going to do is come in and top coat them at the end, and that's where you will really see the design come to life. But we're now going to move back to our pointer, middle and ring finger, and on these ones, the lines that we're going to apply on the surface, we're going to add foils. So to add the foils, I'm using some of the Kiki London rubber base coat. This works really well as a foil gel. So what I'm doing is popping some of that down on my nail art palette. And then I'm going to paint on some lines exactly the same way as what we did with that white gel polish on the previous two nails. But I want these ones to be slightly thicker in places, just so that the gold foil I'm going to use, or sorry, bronze foil I end up using, really pops. So I've painted down a thin layer to begin with, and then wherever I want them to be slightly thicker, I'm just coming in with some more of that rubber base coat. Now, I was quite surprised how well the rubber base coat worked as a foil gel. It just so happens I tried it once when I very first got it, and I was amazed. It works amazing as a foil gel. So if you don't have a foil gel in your collection, definitely give the rubber base coat a try. I haven't tried it with full coverage foils, but I've tried it when I'm applying foil in patches, and you'll see also how well it applies here with the foil once we've finished drawing on those lines. And I wanted the lines on this nail, on this design, sorry, to be the sort of center of attention. But I do love how we've got those previous layers we've created underneath, because again, if you recreate this design on yourself, you will see what I mean by how the different layers and the different pieces of nail art encapsulated reflect in the light. It is really pretty. You do obviously see at the end when we've come in and top coated how beautiful it looks when it all just comes together. And I'm just letting the stripe liner brush do a lot of the work for me. I love how soft the bristles are on this brush, because it just really flows across the nail easily. So once I had finished doing those, I popped these in to cure for 30 seconds. And then I'm simply taking a piece of foil and pressing it down firmly over the nail. So I'm mainly focusing it on where we've drawn on those lines. It is a little bit tricky to do on a practice tip, because when you're pressing down firmly, it kind of wants to ping off the stand. But you can see how easily that foil transfers. So I'm just pressing it down. I'm not really even rubbing much. I'm just pressing down and instantly pulling off. If you do find you've got any areas where it looks a little bit patchy, you can just come over again. And I loved how pretty it looked. I went for bronze in the end rather than gold, because we had gold on the gold leaf nail. So I thought I'd go for a bit of bronze on this one. And I felt as though it really popped against that rose quartz marble effect we've got underneath. If you do have trouble with your foils adhering, rather than pressing on, you can place it down and give it a rub as well. Different foils can work differently, so do have a little play around. Now that we've finished all of our nail art, it's time to come in and top coat. So I'm going to be top coating today with the Kiki London No Wipe top coat. I absolutely love this one. I'm going to apply a thin, even layer of this to all of the nails, and then I will pop them in to cure. So when I'm applying my top coat, I like to start down at that cuticle area and just pull it down towards the free edge. Again, when I'm applying my top coat, I don't like to add a too thick layer. Any kind of products I'm working with that are gel based, I really like to work in thin layers. Now, if I was doing this set on myself or a client, I would double top coat or use the rubber top coat over the top of the nails with the foils, just because foils can have the tendency to chip. So either using the rubber top coat, or if you don't have that in your collection, double top coating, that thicker layer just ensures that they last the 2 or 3 weeks that you're going to be wearing the set of nails for. And you can't quite see it here yet, but once I bring the nails up to the light, you will see how pretty the mylar flakes and the gold leaves reflect underneath. But for now, I'm going to pop those in to cure for 30 seconds. And here is the finished result. I thought they looked super pretty, and they were fairly easy to do as well. So I hope you all enjoyed watching. Now, if you did enjoy watching, please give the video a thumbs up or leave us a comment below. And if you're not already subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Friday. Once again, thank you all for watching. Take care. Lots of love. Bye bye.